Dear participants of today's webinar, URBforDAN Solutions Ready for Transfer to Your City, we would like to welcome you in the name of the city of Ljubljana, and of course also in the name of our partnership from all the project partners or URBforDAN project. Before we start and we proceed with our presentation and presenting our articles, I would give a word to Mr. Clive Davis, the convener of the European Forum on Urban Forestry International Steering Group, to give his first welcome words. Mr. Davis, the word is yours.
Thank you very much, Luca. First of all, can I just check, is my audio and video coming through okay?
Yes, perfect.
Thank you. I would like to thank you, first of all, for the invitation to speak at the beginning of this event today. Before joining this webinar today, I was looking at the track record of EFUF, the European Forum on Urban Forestry, within the Danube region. And in fact, we have, since the forum first started in 1998, had 4 meetings within the Danube region. These are physical meetings, and we have 2 more planned for the future. The first time we were in the region was in Budapest, then in Celje in the Slovenia. We then went to Vienna and then to the city of Ljubljana. So there have been 4 forum meetings in the Danube transnational region. Next year, we're delighted that we will be hosted by Belgrade. I noticed that one of our colleagues for next year is already part of this session today. And there are plans in the future to also go to Croatia. So urban forestry in Europe is also very much about urban forestry in the Danube region. And the Danube region has much to offer the rest of Europe when it comes to thinking about urban forests and what they mean. So about this year, this has been, let's be honest, a very challenging time. We've moved the forum online for the very first time in 2021. As some of you might have gathered, my background is in the United Kingdom, which is where I'm joining you from today. And we have a saying over here that necessity is the mother of invention. I think it's probably also used in other countries too. And the necessity, the travel restrictions that have been brought about by governments across Europe, has meant that the online move has generated a lot of new thinking. We've been delighted this year, in particular, to launch an app which you can download to your mobile phone. It's called My EFUF. It's available from Google Play and also the App Store, depending on which phone you have. And that is a way to access all of the activities. And this week in particular, in addition to this event, we also have activities and other web-based events taking place with our partners in Switzerland. A few words then about the forum. It is by far the longest existing forum of urban forestry, probably in the world. It brings together researchers, practitioners, and it also brings together with, let's be honest, older people like myself who've been working in this field now for the best part of 30 to 40 years with upcoming new young professionals. We regard that as very important. EFUF also has relationships that are important to mention with a number of other organizations. The European Forest Institute is one, which many of you will know. And also at the moment with the Horizon 2020 Clearinghouse project. Of course, we should recognize the important contribution that European Commission funding, European Union funding has brought to urban forestry practice. At the moment, urban forestry is, I think, riding a bit of a crest of a wave. Again, another English term. It's very much in focus at the moment, and we should ask the question why that is the case. It strikes me that one of the reasons for that is the important role that urban forests play in terms of sustainability of urban areas. And sustainability in urban areas is not just about protecting the hard infrastructure. It's also about the benefits that it brings to citizens, both in terms of health and well-being and in terms of recreation. And these are themes that I know that have been used and very much part of the URB4DAN project. And I hope to join you for the rest of the session today, the rest of this webinar, to discuss and hear more about that. If I might be forgiven to look back early in my career, at the very first Urban Forestry Forum, EFUF meeting, which took place in Germany in 1998, I was asked by the organizers to say a few words on behalf of the delegates. And the words that I chose were very much what has been a theme in URB4DAN, that city inhabitants need green lungs, and that the trees and the green areas of a city, the urban green space, is in fact the green lung for the cities, which are densifying and growing at the present time right across Europe. So perhaps as final words from myself, I'm delighted that EFUF has been able to support URB4DAN. It's an exciting project with a lot of learning. And I hope also that many of you who are attending today and involved will also want to participate in EFUF 2022, when we hope to return to a physical in-present forum, which will take place within the region in the city of Belgrade. So with that, I'll hand back to Luca. Thank you very much for the invitation to speak at this event, Luca. And on behalf of the International Steering Group for the Forum, I would like to congratulate URB4DAN for the work that is done, and I look forward to learning more about that this afternoon.
Thank you, Mr. Clive Davis, for all these good words. Also, we thought that this year we would be able to join in Manchester, but this is not the situation. So yeah, let's hope that next year we will meet all in person in Belgrade. Let us now move on. So I will start with a short presentation of the partnership of URB4DAN partnership. So the URB4DAN is a transnational project running under the program Interreg Danube. It consists of 12 project partners. From them, there are 7 cities: the city of Vienna, the city of Budapest, the city of Zagreb, the city of Belgrade, the city of Cluj-Napoca, and the city of Ivano-Frankivsk. There are additional 5 organizations also in partnership that are related to forestry. One of them is today also with us and will present its article. This is the Slovenian Forest Service. And of course, in addition, we have 5 additional additional associated project partners in this partnership. This is the city of Prague, the city of Sarajevo, the city of Podgorica, the faculty, the forestry faculty of Prague, and the Food and Agriculture Organization of United Nations that is giving our project a global note. Let me now present our team a bit. So on the left side, you can see me. I'm the project coordinator of this project, and I'm in charge of the management and the implementation of project. Next to me is Yuri Kobe, urban and peri-urban forest expert and urban forest manager in Ljubljana. He's in charge of the content-related activities of the project, and he will also present today one of the article that is called the Golovec approach. Next to him is Maya, our financial manager. She's in charge of the finance of the whole project, and she's also a big help in all the administration stuff. Vita Kontic is our communication officer, in charge for the local level communication. And I must not forget here to mention also Hannes Uhl from the city of Vienna, because he is in charge for the communication on the partnership level. As already said, we have the Slovenian Forest Service also as a Slovenian partnership in this project. I will start with Mr. Dragan Matjašić. He's currently not working on the project anymore, but from the start, he was the one that trained all the trainers. He gave his knowledge to all the project partners regarding ecosystem analysis, how to start with development of strategy and how to prepare operational plans. Then Tina Simoncic took over his role, and Tina was in charge for the preparation of the strategy for urban forestry development in Ljubljana, and as well in charge of the preparation of the operational part of this strategy for the focus area of Golovec. Tina as well consulted all other participants in preparing their strategies and operational plans. Next to her is Samuš Perjanec, also forestry expert. He was the right hand to Yuri and to Tina. And now he's in charge for the preparation of the operational plan for Šmarna Gora, which is the second focus area here in Ljubljana. Živa Bunčina was also help to Tina and Yuri, and she's also the author of one of scientific article that is related to URBforDAN project. And of course, we have also external help. I forgot to mention our pioneer in Slovenia for urban forestry. This is Robert Hosting. He's a really big expert on urban forest and also a member of EFUF. Therefore, we delegated him the job of being quality assurance manager of our project. As speaking before, we have external experts also included in our project. This is the consulting firm Zavita. Here with us is also Klemen. Klemen is what was a big help in participatory approach, and he will also present today one of the article. Next to him is Matjaž Hermel, forestry expert, also a big help in preparing strategy and operational plan, and Mateusz Premerch as a capacity building expert. So this is the main team of our project. And now let's shortly go over today's agenda. We are now over with the introduction speech by lead partner and by EFUF. Now Clement will share with us some thoughts about the URBforDAN project, so that you will have an opportunity to know what is it all about. Then we will present you a short URBforDAN movie, about 15 minutes. And then, of course, we go to the articles. Clement Strmšik will present the profiling users of urban and peri-urban forests in 7 cities. Then Tina Simoncic will follow with contemporary reading of urban space, the new urban forest strategy of the city of Ljubljana. And of course, Yuri Kobe will conclude with the Golovec approach. I would just like to point out here that after each presentation of the article, there will be possibility for question and answer session. And I would kindly ask you to write your questions in the chat box And then, of course, we will present them to our authors of articles, and they will try to answer these questions. This is all from my side, and I would now kindly ask Klemen Strnčík to tell us more about URBforDAN project.
Thank you, Luca, for the kind introduction and for the word. Yeah, it has fallen to me today to present the basics or the introductory thoughts about the URBforDAN project. Maybe also to talk about where the whole project idea came from. To be honest, it all started quite a few years ago in 2014 with a very severe ice break in Slovenia. The problem of urban and peri-urban forest management, of course, existed prior to that year, but this was the one event that really showed that something needs to be done. And this is where we can say that the birth date of the URBforDAN project actually lies. We set out to resolve 4 very concrete issues with the project. We wanted to improve the poor state of urban and peri-urban forests in partner cities. And of course, the question was how to actually do it. We wanted to address the private ownership issue, which in some cities, as you probably noticed from our results, is quite an important issue. One of the major issues is how to mobilize and activate private owners for active management of their own urban and peri-urban forests. The next challenge we tackled was how to reduce ever-increasing pressures, lack of coordination, and infrastructure combined with rising conflicts, and how to include all of that into a very concrete or improved urban and peri-urban forest management. And then, of course, there was the 4th issue, which was more a question than a certainty. We were curious whether we are able of utilizing ecosystem services, which are provided by urban and peri-urban forests to the benefit of the citizens themselves. It is my belief that this slide probably the best represents the transnational character of the URBforDAN partnership that was composed on purpose to address all stated issues. I mean, in the end, you can see that it occupies a substantial part or predominant part of the Danube region. It connects 10 countries, 10 cities, many of them capitals of their countries, with over 6.5 million inhabitants. But even more importantly, these are actually the cities that have a lot of urban and peri-urban forests within their territories. We're talking about over 35 square kilometers of urban forests in these cities, and they are yearly visited by over 15 million visitors. Why is that important? It's important because we wanted to make sure that we create a partnership which is not only able to carry out or implement the project itself, but it is also able to provide a testing ground for all the proposed solutions, to test them in a diverse set of conditions and make sure that our conclusions and results are validated. So furthermore, when we were composing the project partnership, we were also mindful of the ecological conditions in these cities. We were constantly checking with our future partners in what ecological conditions their urban or peri-urban forests are, what are their characteristics. And we can see from the pictures that we were able to collect a diverse array of different types of urban and peri-urban forests. So in case of Ljubljana, Zagreb, Vienna, we can talk more strictly about urban forests, while in case of Budapest, Cluj-Napoca, and Belgrade, and Ivano-Frankivsk, of course, we are more talking about peri-urban forests. But again, all of these components enabled us to really create a setting for verification of proposed solutions. Now, URBforDAN project has always been based on 3 very concrete pillars. The first one was heavy and constructive involvement of urban and peri-urban forest owners, managers, and users in different project development phases. And because we were able to pull this off or ensure that this actually happens, we had a very constructive urban and peri-urban planning process, which actually we hope on the long run will result in improved urban and peri-urban forest management. On the other hand, I said already before, we were really keen on investigating how we can utilize in a sustainable manner, of course, the ecosystem services provided by urban and peri-urban forests. All three pillars fit well together and actually support each other, but we have to be aware that the whole character of the URBforDAN project was to a large extent really a pilot project character. So it is trying to do something new that has not yet been done in these cities. Nobody had all the answers up in our hands. So it was really important also to ensure joint development, testing, and evaluation system. We set it up with a very clear purpose to monitor what is going on, to learn from this process, and in the end to provide a transnational level UPF planning and management guidelines for the whole Danube region. Of course, the main goal, which is evident from my presentation so far, was to improve the management of urban and peri-urban forests in all 7 Danube cities. But alongside, we also had other goals which were not less important than the first one. We wanted to preserve natural and cultural heritage, natural heritage as a biodiversity hotspots, stepping stones in urban settings, in urban environment, which is becoming more and more important topic in the last few years. We wanted, of course, to strengthen cross-sectoral cooperation between key actors. Subsequently, we wanted to improve the quality of life in all 7 cities. But we were also wondering whether we can convince our citizens to come out with their own ideas, with their own sustainable development opportunities for urban and peri-urban forests through the participatory approach process. You know, having these kind of presentations at the end of the project is always nice because it gives you an opportunity to look back over your shoulder, so where you were 2.5 or 3 years ago. And this slide represents really well, this collage of photos actually represents really well what was the initial idea in our head when we were composing this project proposal and also the project partnership. So these were mainly the topics that we wanted to deal with. When we started applying for the URBforDAN project on the Danube program, this was kind of some sort of a diagram we came up with to make sure that the evaluators or assessors of the project proposal really understand what we are trying to do. It is on one hand quite straightforward, but on the other hand, it also clearly shows the... I'm sorry, can I ask everybody to mute their microphones, please, because somebody's talking in the background? Apologies, thank you. This diagram also clearly already states the complexity behind this project. And I don't want to scare anybody, but the actual model of how this project was done is shown on the diagram on the right side. So you can see that there were many more steps and many more tasks to do to actually come up with the final results of this project than we even imagined when we started the project. I don't want to scare anybody off who's maybe interested in repeating our steps. I'm showing you all of this because I really want to point out that you need to have a good, sizable partnership. Support, it actually helps to have a support of a transnational program, which actually enables you to construct such large partnerships in order to actually pull this project off. And big thanks to all the city teams working with all of us on this project in the last 3 years. On this slide, I compiled the key outputs of the URBforDAN project. I don't want to dive into them. You can explore them on your own in our web library. I just want to point out that there is still one of them missing. This is the participatory planning and management guidelines. This is sort of our crown achievement to the whole project, which is still in making. So we hope that these guidelines will be finalized in the summer months. So in September, come the time of our final conference, I hope we will already be able to share them with you and send them through your emails that you have kindly shared with us by joining this event. Now, if you are more interested in exploring how the whole project evolved, what happened, what went well, what didn't go this well, you are most welcome to join our URBforDAN project website. There we have a project library. You can explore it. Or, of course, you are also very welcome to join our UPF Danube network. Big thanks to Mr. Simone Borelli and FAO for allowing us to use their DG groups as a platform for this network that is still going on and is still working. With this, I would like to close these introductory presentations. I hope it was clear, I was to the point, and maybe we will give you an opportunity now to enjoy a little bit more in a different way of presenting our project. Luca, back to you.
Thank you, Clement, for this presentation about the URBforDAN project. So I hope that now you know some of the things already, what our project is all about, but I'm sure that after the presentation of our 3 articles, there will be more known about our project. Now I would invite you all to see our URBforDAN promo video. We will do it, we will run it through Zoom, but maybe it can happen that the picture and the sound will not be okay. Therefore, you can find in the chat box also the link that will take you to the YouTube video page, where you can run it on your own in case, of course, that there will be difficulties with this video running via Zoom. I would like our IT department now to run the movie, and in 15 minutes we are then back.
More than half of all humans on Earth live in cities. And the urban pace is chaotic. There's more cars, more noise, and more pollution than ever before. We've traded the quality of life for the benefits of development. And what's the result? We feel the consequences. Our health, body and mind suffer. We are more depressed, more anxious and frustrated. All across Europe, people living in cities face the same problems. City life sometimes just becomes too much. But there is something that helps.
Ich denke, dass die Stadtwälder ganz eine besondere Bedeutung haben für die Menschen, weil sie eine Naherholungsmöglichkeit bieten, ohne dass sie weiters die Stadt verlassen müssen und auch mal nach der Arbeit in die Natur hinaus können und ein bisschen vom Arbeitsstress sich erholen können. Das Besondere an diesem Wald hier ist, das ist der letzte Auwaldrest eines ehemals großen Augebietes, das es hier unmittelbar in Wien gegeben hat. Das hier ist der letzte natürliche Auwald, der noch aus dieser Zeit geblieben ist.
Pădurea Făget are valori naturale excepționale, este caracterizată de o dispunere în spațiu extrem de heterogenă și se bucură de prezența a câteva sute de specii de floră și faună. Pădurea Făget oferă experiențe inedite pe tot parcursul anului. De primăvara până iarna, pădurea este un loc ideal pentru drumeții, pentru alergat, pentru ciclism, pentru fotografiat și chiar pentru urmărirea vieții păsărilor, pentru cei pasionați de ornitologie, plimbări în familie sau activități educaționale. Biodiversitatea din Pădurea Făget, combinată cu potențialul de relaxare, oferă acestei zone statutul de bijuterie a coroanei în materie de cadre naturale la Cluj-Napoca și împrejurimi.
Urbane šume su ključne za gradove i ljude koji žive u urbanim područjima, prvenstveno zbog svih opće korisnih funkcija koje one nude. Svaka urbana šuma ima prvenstveno jednu funkciju za zdravlje ljudi i bijeg praktički od svakodnevnice urbanog načina života. Posebno u ovoj šumi što je to prirodna šuma. Mi smo ponosni na to što imamo prirodne autohtone šume u zoni grada i želimo ih kao takve zadržati. Ove šume kojima mi gospodarimo i koji su na prostoru grada Zagreba, to su od prirode šume na obroncima Medvednice koji se spuštaju u samu zonu grada. Što rijetko možete vidjeti negdje da praktički sa tramvaja ili autobusa možete za par minuta doći u jednu prirodnu šumu i uživati u svim njenim blagodatima.
Šume su pluća jednog grada. U šumi se vrši prečišćavanje vazduha tog koji je zagađen i šume praktično kulja kiseonik ka gradovima. Blagodeti gradskih šuma na ljude koji većinu vremena provode u gradu su zapravo mir, tišina, čist vazduh, druženje sa nekim životinjama kojih u gradu nema. Mogu jednostavno da piju i vodu sa izvora, što u gradovima nije slučaj. Avala je najbliža planina glavnom gradu. Avala je zaštićeno prirodno dobro od 2007. godine.
Gozd velikokrat pripeljemo naše vrtčevske otroke, saj imamo privilegij opazovati, kako se krepi otroška domišljija in ustvarjalnost. V tem gozdu je posebno to, da ga imamo na dosegu roke, da je le trenutek stran od mestnega vrveža in da v njem najdemo vse, kar potrebujemo za igro in učenje. Gozd ima veliko pozitivnih vplivov na naše zdravje, spodbuja nas k gibanju in druženju, pripomore k boljšemu počutju in ohranjanju našega zdravja. Otroci v gozdu neizmerno uživajo, ker se lahko svobodno igrajo in se družijo. Na Golovcu pravzaprav imamo vse, kar potrebujemo. To je narava na dosegu roke, gozd, travnik, potok in ribnik. Lahko se pohvalimo z raznolikostjo okolj na majhnem koščku sveta.
Міські ліси вкрай необхідні мешканцям міст, адже це територіально дуже близько, просто будь-який день після роботи або зранку прийти на природу, обдумати все, прийняти рішення, зайнятися певним видом спорту, зустріти однодумців на цьому ж лісі. В цьому лісі особливо, на мою думку, майже все від містичних легенд, від історії, від того, як цей ліс зараз розвивається, які користувачі ним користуються. Та флора і фауна неймовірно тут. Тут неподалік є заказник з неймовірно красивими печерами, де дійсно відбувалися цікаві історичні події. Знаю декілька цікавих легенд про це місто. Знаю, що саме Івано-Франківськ, перші фундаменти будувалися з вапняка, з якого фактично створений цей пагорб.
A 3-as határhegyet sokan ismerik, hiszen feljárnak az emberek a Bukler kilátóhoz és gyönyörködnek a város szépségében. A természetvédők azt is tudják, hogy a környező dolomit sziklagyepek növény- és állatvilága egészen sajátságos. Itt lenn a völgyben, ahol most dolgozunk, az az érdekes, hogy egy felhagyott szántót és gyümölcsöst kezd meghódítani a természet. Azt szeretném, ha a jövőben ez a hely kedvenc kiránduló helyé válna. Felnőttek és gyerekek feljönnek ide gyakori buszjáratokkal, aztán végig sétálhatnak a tanösvényen, és közben mindenki sok ismeretet gyűjthet. A gyerekjátszóteret is úgy alakítjuk ki, hogy miközben a gyerekek a fajátékokon ugrálnak, a szüleik tudjanak meg sok mindent az itt élő veszélyeztetett fajokról.
Das ist durch die Donauregulierung vor 150 Jahren ist ein Großteil davon verloren gegangen. Aber das ist natürlich für diese letzten geschützten natürlichen Bereiche besteht natürlich auch die Gefahr einer Übernutzung durch den Menschen.
Адже великий потік людей, які тут хочуть відпочивати, займатися певним видом спорту, вони залишають за собою певні наслідки.
De la defrișări masive și ilegale, la motorsporturi sau vizitatori neglijenți.
Die Gefährdung besteht vielleicht auch darin, dass die Menschen besonders stark jene Bereiche suchen, die besonders natürlich erhalten geblieben sind. Und deswegen sind solche Biodiversität-Hotspots besonders gefährdet von einer Übernutzung.
Втручаються флору і фауну, що також шкодить цьому лісу, особливо в частині, де вже починається заказник. Ті ж відходи залишають, не прибирають, також розпалюють вогнище, де їм хочеться, травмують дерева через те, що їм потрібно розпалити це вогнище.
Mostanában meg az okoz nagy gondot, hogy jönnek az emberek autóval is, lerakják a hulladékot, és sokan ugyan kirándulni jönnek, de nem tudják, hogy hogyan viselkedjenek az erdőben. Ezt kellene megváltoztatni.
Ich denke, es wäre sehr wichtig, hier mehr Information an die Menschen zu bringen, den Menschen erklärt, warum dieser Teil so besonders wertvoll ist und warum er so schützenswert ist.
Dacă trebuie să protejăm și să menținem unicitatea și curățenia în aceste păduri, trebuie să lucrăm la mentalitatea celor care le vizitează și să dezvoltăm spiritul civic, să încurajăm să ia atitudine și să anunțe orice ilegalitate celor care sunt responsabili de bunăstarea pădurii.
Облаштувавши відповідну інфраструктуру, зараз ми бачимо, що немає достатньої кількості тих смітників, немає організованої системи вивозу відходів з даної території, відповідно і накопичуються відходи.
A problémák megoldását azzal kell kezdeni, hogy megakadályozzuk, hogy a terület belsejébe behatoljanak az autók.
Pojačan nadzor od strane čuvara šuma.
Trebuie să lucrăm împreună pentru a transforma zona într-unul dintre cele mai interesante cadre naturale și nu doar din Cluj-Napoca, ci din întreaga regiune.
A városi erdők nélkül a budapestiek nagy bajban lennének.
Die Bedeutung des Projekts URBforDAN, denke ich, liegt darin, den Fokus auf urbane Wälder zu lenken, und vor allem ganz wichtig bei dem Projekt ist der Austausch zwischen den unterschiedlichen Ländern, zwischen den unterschiedlichen Städten, die zum Teil unterschiedliche, aber zum Teil auch ganz ähnliche Probleme haben.
Проект URBforDAN має теж велике значення, адже він став таким поштовхом до розмови взагалі про роль міських лісів для міських жителів. Він нас навчив, як планувати розвиток певної рекреаційної діяльності саме на міських лісів.
Skozi izvajanje projekta URBforDAN si prizadevamo za vzpostavitev skupnega upravljanja in izboljšanja gospodarjenja z lastniki gozda.
Izgalmas volt megismerni, hogy 7 közeli országban mit tesznek a kollégák azért, hogy ezek az erdők minél jobban szolgálhassák a városlakókat.
URBforDAN je važan kako za nas ovde u šumi, tako i za okolno stanovništvo. Svi smo dobili po nešto.
Za nas ta šuma u budućnosti znači jednu zdravu sastojinu, jedan prirodni okoliš, jednu autohtonu šumu i nešto što će i dalje biti na ponos gradu Zagrebu.
Mestni gozd predstavlja zelena pljuča mesta. Pomemben je tako za nas, kot za prihodne generacije.
O astfel de zonă are o gamă largă de întrebuințări și este important pentru noi să-i conservăm unicitatea, atât pentru viitoarele generații, cât și pentru mediul înconjurător.
The URBforDAN project has set new standards in the sustainable care of our urban forests and developed internationally applicable management plans. URBforDAN brought forest owners, managers, as well as users to the same table and achieved their active involvement. By improving urban forest management, the overall experience and awareness of visitors to our urban forests has been elevated.
Dear participants, welcome back. I hope you enjoyed our promo video. And now it's time for the presentation of our articles. Once again, I would like to remind you if there are any questions regarding the presented article. There you have a chat box. Please write them down in the chat box, and after each presentation we will try to answer to that question. Now I'm asking Klemen Strmschnik to present the first article, Profiling Users of Urban and Peri-urban Forest in 7 URBforDAN cities. Klemen, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Luca, for the word. Again, from my side, I promise this is the last contribution that I have today for you. I would like to point out at the beginning of my presentation that in URBforDAN there is always this duality. On one hand, we are trying to mitigate or reduce the pressures that urban and peri-urban forests are faced with in their urban reality. But on the other hand, we are also trying to exploit the ecosystem services, as Mr. Davies said before, very nicely to the benefit of the citizens living in these cities. So it's basically this little bit ping pong between two topics constantly going on in the project. But, you know, addressing both issues at the same time automatically means that you have to engage many stakeholders. And with many stakeholders, of course, you are dealing with many interests, and they are not always synchronized. You know, with many stakeholders, you get many different ideas of the future, many different ambitions, many different development desires. And sometimes you also are faced with concrete conflicts happening within different stakeholder groups. So from the start of the project, we tried to address the issue of who the stakeholders are and really understanding them in depth, actually. We took this job very seriously. So we started already in the project development phase. We divided them into 3 groups. We said, okay, we have urban peri-urban forest owners, we have the managers, and then we have the users. But as you can see already from this diagram in front of you, even these groups are not quite coherent. I mean, if we take, for example, the owners. First, we have public and then private owners. And then also, in our case, in public case, we only had large owners, but in private case, we also had large, small, and micro owners. And you can imagine then a micro or a small UPF owner has probably different interests and different view of its urban and peri-urban forest than a large private owner. It goes the same. It states we can say the same for all other stakeholder groups. They're also very heterogeneous. So we knew from the start of the project that the cities will represent the core of this project partnership. And as Luca said before, when he was presenting the project partnership, we decided at some point that we want to actually invite managers to join this project partnership and support the city with their local forest knowledge of the management of urban and peri-urban forests. In this case, we were smart because we joined actually the political decision-making willpower with local knowledge. And of course, the combination is actually the one that is necessary to implement any kind of solution in urban and peri-urban forests in cities today. That, of course, meant that managers automatically, in most cities, in 5 out of 7, actually became the trusted partners of this partnership. On the other hand, it also gave us a very clear mission that the owners and the users are key target audiences that we need to address in this project partnership, and we can focus on them solely because the managers are already a part of the team. Now, for the purpose of these presentations, I ask you that from now on, we only focus on users. And you can see here in this diagram that users are the most heterogeneous group of all. So we have people who want to use urban and peri-urban forests for recreation, for relaxation, for education, research, etc., etc., etc. There are many different ideas on what people want to do in urban and peri-urban forests. So the question is, how to reach out and mobilize all these different types of users and to do it in 7 diverse cities and also diverse cultures. I mean, if you look at the Danube region, even the culture is not so similar in all the countries. And yes, of course, we use the same approach as stated in the project before. So we all used diverse array of communication channels. We all implemented URBforDAN introductory workshops, but the real key of the success of this phase was hidden in the fact that we allowed city teams to decide which tools and techniques for communication, for engaging, for addressing and mobilizing users they decided to use, because they know their citizens best. So we really trusted our partners that they will do the best that they can to mobilize as many of them as possible. We used online or on-site survey as one of the tools to actually mobilize users and actually gain in-depth knowledge about them. So who are these different types of users? What are their habits? What are their needs, their expectations? Are there any existing conflicts? Do they have any specific development ideas? This was the main goal of this initial survey that we did as a project partnership together. But in some cities, as a bonus, if you want, it actually worked also to another goal. So in Ljubljana, for instance, we were able to use this survey also as a fantastic and effective mobilization tool. It actually provoked a lot of our users of the urban forest in Ljubljana to actively respond to this survey, to become involved, engaged. We gained their attention, we raised their awareness, and we actually brought them closer to the project. So in some sort, it played out on a multiple levels. Now, what kind of an approach did we use? Since we were one partnership and we wanted to test different approaches, different techniques, different tools, we decided that in the first phase, we will for sure develop a joint questionnaire, and we will do it in a simultaneous way. So it was one questionnaire for all partners unified. But then we sent out these questionnaires to our project partners, to all city teams, and we asked them to partially modify them, to make the questions about concrete cases in their cities, and also to translate them into 7 languages. This was really important because of this, the citizens could relate to the questionnaire more directly and could really speak out about the concrete ideas they have in their own city. In the next step, we offered again the project partners to decide what type of survey do they want to carry out. Do they want to do an online survey or do they want to do an on-site survey? Predominantly 6 out of 7 project partners actually decided to do the on-site survey. So they used local teams to go out in the field to interview people on site, while Ljubljana decided to test out the tool of online survey. In the table that is here on the slide, you can see that from the response point of view, the online response was much higher to the online survey than on-site. Of course, there are many reasons why this happened in this way. One was the timing when the survey was actually carried out. The second one was that the partners who actually implemented this survey on-site had to repeat the surveys until they got the appropriate number of people moving around in the field. While in Ljubljana, of course, this was much easier because it was an online survey. On the other hand, I have to point out that doing an online survey, of course, also brings some downsides. For example, that you attract mostly more educated people who have access to Wi-Fi, who are able and used to filling out online surveys, etc. Nonetheless, both approaches delivered high-quality content results, as you will see later on. And as the last step, of course, all the city teams were asked to deliver the raw data, the analyzed data, and also to deliver some sort of commentary alongside with end results. On this slide, you can see a table which actually shows what type of users of urban and peri-urban forests were identified in all 7 cities. You can see that we are talking about a quite diverse array of users, and they are not always popping up in all cities as one might expect, because we are talking about urban and peri-urban forests, but their presence in these cities is quite dispersed. Secondly, we asked the city teams to color in green color those stakeholder groups or user groups that they find really relevant for the planning phase of the project. And you can see that even here, the cities had mixed ideas on who they want to involve. And at this point, I have to be honest and say that we needed some sort of focus and transnational agreement. So we agreed on 7 key stakeholder groups that would be dealt with in all 7 cities, and of course, all other stakeholder groups could be dealt with on individual city levels. So I'm talking about the stakeholder groups listed here on the left in the column marked with green. Now, to be fully honest, nobody really expected the survey to deliver so high quality results. So when we were designing the project, nobody actually planned to do the profiling process or to even come up with the profiles. It is something that we noticed when we got the results in. So then we got intrigued. We wanted to find out if we can get something more out of this survey than just statistics. Of course, we went through the whole process, comparing the results on the partnership level, selecting key stakeholder groups, preparing the profiles based on the statistics. But most importantly, we didn't stop there. So the profiles were not tested only on the statistical level, but we went to the next series of workshops with the profiles. We presented them to our stakeholders, and we really verified them. I'm sorry, can you please switch off your microphones? Again, somebody has an open mic. Thank you. But let's not be only theoretical. I want to show you a practical example. So let's meet our cyclist or downhill cyclist. This is an example of a profile that came out of this survey, and I would like to show you what kind of results you can expect from these kind of surveys. Sorry. So The average cyclist is visiting urban and peri-urban forests in one of URBforDAN cities is 31 to 45 years old. He or she is highly educated and employed, which all of you who have ever met a downhill cyclist or a cyclist in urban and peri-urban forests know that really fits well the general categorization of the type of people usually using this sort of recreation. He or she is either the citizen of URBforDAN city, living 2 to 5 kilometers away from the focus area that they're visiting, or, and of course, visiting this urban forest a few times a week or a month. This is just the fact that they are so close to this urban forest that they have the luxury of using it more frequently. Alternatively, it can also be a visitor of URBforDAN city, visiting the urban forest only a few times a year. These are the two main characteristics within this group. He or she most commonly visits the urban forest by bicycle or by car and spends there 1 to 5 hours. Apologies. Again, here we need to differentiate between the two types that I described before, because cyclists who are citizens of our cities usually come to the urban and peri-urban forest by bicycles and spend there 1 to 2 hours, while of course visitors come more often by car and spend longer time because they have less opportunity to spend quality time in urban and peri-urban forests. In any case, they have rather poor knowledge about the actual protection or adapted management regimes applicable to the urban forest. They believe that their activities does not create conflicts with other users or has a negative impact on nature. This is their general perception. What is interesting is that in the very next answer, they are saying that he or she is more aware of potential conflicts with other users, but is still convinced that he or she is not responsible for them. So they are aware that the type of activity they are doing is more prone to potential conflicts with other users of urban and peri-urban forests, but they are sure that they are not the ones causing any problems. He, she is, of course, most bothered by poor maintenance of trails and urban equipment, and of course by motorized vehicles. This is why in their surveys we got a lot of requests for closing any traffic going on in the urban and peri-urban forests on forest roads. They support the development of well-equipped entrance points and well-maintained trails in the urban forests. And they actually expected the URBforDAN project to improve accessibility of urban forests by bike. And here we are not talking about forest trails. We are talking about the accessibility to the focused area, because in some cities, especially in those cities that have lacking infrastructure, cycling infrastructure around the city. They expected that the URBforDAN project should improve marking of trails and separate cycling and walking trails in the urban forest. They were really keen on introducing a code of conduct for users. They were supporting the installation of urban equipment and improved sports recreational infrastructure in them. And they actually wanted to set up additional points of interest, of course, that they could visit by bike. So how did we use these profiles in our next steps that later Yuri and Tina, firstly Tina and then Yuri will describe? First, I have to say that on the first note, we use it to gain and solidify trust amongst users, because my feeling on the workshops when we were presenting these profiles to them was that they relaxed. They saw that we really did our homework. We really did an extra effort to understand them, to get knowledge about them, and they responded by providing us with additional amount of trust and more activity in the following stages of the planning. We also were able to address and resolve identified conflicts with them, because from the questionnaires, these conflicts were well exposed and even solutions were proposed. So we were able to create a safe and constructive environment for the dialogue towards the resolution of these conflicts. And more importantly, we were already at that point, at the beginning of the project, able to collect development ideas, which were, of course, later integrated in the integrated multi-use management plans developed through our project. Now, just for the concluding thoughts from my side, which were the lessons learned from this exercise? The one lesson that we learned is that the online survey proved to be a more successful tool than the on-site survey for the reasons that I already stated. Of course, if somebody is interested more in this discussion, we can use the time in the question and answer session to discuss this in more detail. Workshops proved to be extremely important for verification of project results and profiles. What worked well was that we used the same questionnaires for all the cities to a large extent, because then we were able to compare these results. This was really, really beneficial for the partnership overall. However, I have to warn you here that some flexibility really is necessary. One warning for anybody who wanted to repeat the online survey: don't make the questionnaire too long. People who are willing to respond to online surveys don't have a lot of patience. Ours was quite complex. So to be honest, we had about 30% drop-off rate after the 2/3 of the questionnaire, which clearly indicates that people got lost interest and we wanted to get too much information from them. Also, if you attempt to do this, do not underestimate the time and the effort needed for high quality analysis of the results, because just gathering results doesn't give you anything. You really have to devote your time and effort to analyze them and to get the messages out of them and to interpret them. And this is hard work. And in the end, we can say that the profiles proved to be quite useful planning tool. The good thing is that they were developed on a transnational level, so they actually apply to all 7 cities, or we can say that they could apply to all the Danube region to a high level of certainty. But most of all, I would like to point out that this exercise was really an important learning and capacity building exercise for all of us, because from being a part of it, I can tell you that nobody did this before in this manner that we did at this point. So everybody learned, even the experts who have lots of experience for strategy development and planning were excited about using them as tool. With this, I would end my presentation, and of course, I would open the floor for any potential questions that you might have. Thank you very much for the word, Luca.
Thank you, Clement, for the detailed presentation of the profiling the users, for letting us know about the methodology, about the process that happened in this project. So now, if I see, I see that we have 2 questions. First was addressed only to me and is coming from Slovenia. And actually the question is directly to you, Clement. Are this data that you presented, are they presenting the information gathered only in Ljubljana, in Golovec, or in further urban forests in Ljubljana, or were they or you presented the data actually for the whole partnership? So that means for all 7 cities.
Yeah,
the word is yours, Clement.
Thank you, Luca. So if we are talking about the profiles were created on a transnational level. So what we did was we created the city level profiles, and we compared all the profiles of all the cities. And to be honest, we were also very surprised that there were no major discrepancies in most cases, not everywhere, of course, but in majority of cases, there were only minor discrepancies between the cities. So the profiles that I presented are, of course, the profiles for the whole project partnership jointly together. If you go to the web library of the URBforDAN project on our official website, you can find the report there. You will see behind each profile also a matrix of most important answers per city. So you will be able to understand what kind of differences there are between profiles between the cities themselves. So all the data is there, but the presented profiles were generic ones for the whole project partnership. And to be honest, I think that as such, they are even more useful from the transfer point of view, because any city in the Danube region interested in the transfer or repetition of this exercise, or even using these profiles for their own urban and peri-urban forestry planning process, can benefit from them, because they were validated on 7 different cities in 7 different cultural and ecological conditions. So this is the true value of them. But again, if you are interested in a very specific cities, you can find the answer in the final report. I hope I answered the question.
Thank you, Clement, for this answer. Yes, it's already seen from the checkbox that you already explained perfectly. Then we have second question coming from Clive Davis, and it goes also to you, Clement. Were any stakeholders reluctant to participate in this process?
This is, of course, a very good question and a very valid question. Of course, in any participative process, you have users or a group of people who are less keen to participate. We actually invested, especially Yuri, he will explain this more in the Golovets approach. We really invested a lot of energy and time in the workshops, in communicating with these stakeholders, and we really try to bring everybody at the table, but you are not 100% successful all of the time. If you ask me who was not that responsive, for me, I really cannot remember any specific group. I would rather say that individuals were less responsive, because, as I said, in Ljubljana, in the case of Ljubljana, where I was personally involved in this process, we were lucky that we had this wide base of users representing different user groups. So we had at least one person willing to participate on a specific user group. This was not so much a problem for us. For other cities, I cannot say, because I was not that heavily involved in their participatory processes. But I would say that whoever wanted to participate in our process had an opportunity, and those are the ones that we were focusing on, because the ones that don't want to participate will never participate. I'm sorry, I couldn't be more concrete.
As usual. Thank you, Clement, for all your explanations. Because there are no other questions in the chat box, I would now give an opportunity to all the participants to maybe ask in oral to ask a question. We know that sometimes it is hard to write down if the question is more concrete or more complicated. So if there is anybody that would like to ask something, Clement, about his article, now it's the time for that. Okay, I see that there are no other questions. Maybe they will pop out in future. Of course, you are all welcome to write us, or at the end of all presented article, you can also ask additional questions. Now I will ask our second presenter. Here with us is Tina now, and she will present the contemporary reading of urban space, the new urban forest strategy of the city of Ljubljana in Slovenia. Tina, please, the word is yours.
Hi. Hi, my name is Tina Simončić. I come from Slovenia Forest Service, and I will present today the new urban forest strategy of the city of Ljubljana, Slovenia. This is a document that was prepared within the URBforDAN project. It was one of the main tasks of Slovenia Forest Service, and I will explain details. The motivation for the strategy, there were many reasons for this. To start, in the urban forest of Ljubljana, there has been a huge increase in the visitor density in the last decades, and it was really a prompt and very quickly increasing number of visitors, and the appropriate infrastructure was not appropriate anymore. So it was very difficult to act promptly. The other challenge was that the visitors were not of the same interest. So an amplitude of profiles posed challenges to managers because there were increasing conflicts among users, and we lacked appropriate tools to recognize and manage these conflicts. Also, in the last 7 years, several natural catastrophes, sleet, wind throw, and bark beetle attacks posed challenges because it was really difficult to react promptly in the settings where the private property is the prevailing ownership type. There were many damages also to recreational paths, and it was difficult to reach forest owners to do the salvage cutting because many owners are not known or are uninterested, or there are several co-owners on the same properties. So this was a big challenge. There is also a high pressure of urbanization, and there is a fact that forest areas in Slovenia are protected against land conversion, but in urban areas, political decisions and other pressures sometimes can change these facts. So additional instruments to protect forest land against deforestation are needed. And finally, in urban areas, not just in Ljubljana, but also in other urban areas, there are overlapping management competences because there are many actors that have competences in management of these areas. Among the most important ones are the forestry institutions responsible for planning and management, and municipality, then other governmental and non-governmental organizations, and in the private ownership types, also the private owners, and of course the forest users. So in a lot of cases, there are many people out on the field doing the same thing, or sometimes nobody is doing the things that should be done. So there is an absence of clear organizational scheme. Some facts about our urban forests in Ljubljana. This is the map. They contain about 8% of total municipality area, and 82.5% of this area is privately owned. And the average size of private property is 1.2 hectares. So it's a really scattered ownership property. And as I mentioned before, this presents a big challenge for forest planners and managers. And something about the overlapping management competences. Here are the main institutions in Ljubljana that are responsible for management and planning. As you see, there are some overlapping tasks between them. The Slovenia Forest Service is responsible for planning, both in public and private forest. It collaborates also with City of Ljubljana and with forest owners. On the other hand, City Municipality of Ljubljana is responsible for management of city forests, which also contains management of recreational infrastructure that is under the ownership of the city. And also they collaborate with forest owners and Slovenia Forest Service. Then we also have the state that's responsible for management of state forest and forest owners. So when we were thinking about how to approach all these challenges, we checked the existing planning tools and how they can help us. At the strategic level, we have the forest management plan for Ljubljana Forest Management Region, which is the main forest plan, the main document that defines the objectives and guidelines to manage this forest. But as you see, this is a very broad area. Then there is a municipal spatial plan, its strategic part. And on operational level, we have forest management plan for Ljubljana Forest Management Unit, which is the most in line with the borders of the municipality. But still you see that the size is much broader than the size of urban forest, because it contains also the hinterlands of the forest, not just the area of urban forest. And there is a municipal spatial plan, its operational part. So if we have all these planning tools, why we would need a new plan? When we were analyzing all these plans, we revealed that the definition of urban forests is different in the forest planning instruments and in the municipal plans. There is urgent need to harmonize this in order to develop some common tools to manage this forest. A part of urban forest is currently protected as forests with special purpose, and we have a special legal degree on this, but the degree is very general and does not prescribe specific guidelines to manage these forests. Existing forest plans are based on multifunctional forest management. They also contain guidelines on management of forests in order to achieve social and ecological functions. But still, in these forest plans, the data on forest sites and forest stand characteristics prevail, whereas the data on forest users, their needs, the conflicts is scarce. And there is limited participation in the forest planning process. We have it and it's legally obliged, but it's more in terms of passive participation and less about active direct targeting on user groups that my colleague Clemen mentioned before, and that you will also see in the next presentation. So we came to a conclusion that there is an urgent need for a plan that would define the local community's interest in forests within the city, that would specifically address challenges connected to management of urban forests. By this, I mean their stakeholders, the spatial context, the plan that would be under detailed process of stakeholder participation, and that would define clear governance model, meaning which institutions are responsible for what tasks and in what way they must perform them. And our idea was that, yes, we need both the strategic plan that would be more of a politically important and would have a power to reach broader public, to get public acceptance, and to also have some financial power to get financial support from the governance. And we also need operational plans in order to be able to perform activities on the field and in order to consider specifics within the urban forests, because not all forests within the urban area are the same. And the idea is that for independent areas of urban forests, operational plans would be developed in the future. And how we started. First, we needed to make a good template, how this strategy will look like. And we based our template on a clear planning logic, so state-of-the-art, priorities, objectives, and guidelines how to achieve these objectives. The strategy must enable the input of participation process, must be understandable to both professional and general public. It can be applied in various socio-economic and natural settings. This is important because the template was used by all the partners of our project and they all developed their own strategies, but the partners, they differ in terms of social, natural, and economical settings. The template must consider various legal bases and existing documents. This is important if we want to achieve some kind of integration of the strategy in the existing legal documents or to achieve some kind of formal status of the strategy. And of course, when we prepared the template, we based on best practices, on existing guidelines, on urban and peri-urban forests, and on already existing plans from the urban areas. The strategy was prepared in 6 main steps. First, we created a group of experts. Then we gathered data, involved stakeholders. We prepared the draft text. We put the text in the revision, and then we finalized the strategy. So this is the participation process. When we prepared the text consisted of setting the strategic priorities, determining the importance of urban forest area, determining management objectives and guidelines, and the governance framework. Just to show quickly, in the case of Ljubljana, we set 7 strategic priorities, and we determined where in our urban forests some priorities are more important and where others are more important. For these priorities, we set the objectives and guidelines how to achieve these objectives. And finally, we defined the governance framework, where, if you remember this paragraph from the beginning, we defined which tasks are important for the city of Ljubljana, which are important for Slovenia Forest Service, for forest owners. So if you see here, the major actor here was the city of Ljubljana, which is responsible for coordination, directing activities, and harmonization of interest in the public benefits. And they are important for support to forest owners. Slovenia Forest Service offers professional support in this process, and of course must ensure that activities are in line with existing forest plans. Forest owners must respect the degree on special purpose forest and the strategy, of course, under the agreements, which state what are the obligations of owners and what are the obligations of the city of Ljubljana towards forest owners in order to provide activities in public interests. So state is an interesting factor, an interesting actor in this process, because the share of state forest is low, and sometimes they don't have very high interest because of that. But it's important to realize that these forests are kind of a mirror of forestry, and it's not so important about the hectares, but the location, and that activities here are very important for the public eyes. So sometimes we need to convince them that urban forests are maybe more important in these terms than some other hinterland areas. So lessons learned, I put here how to make the strategy powerful. We really didn't want to just write some plan because we wanted to bring it to a reality. So we were thinking how to do it, and I will expose 2 major lessons learned here. First is a collaborative governance model. This is really important, and I will expose 4 things here. To activate uninterested stakeholders, this is very important because sometimes it's difficult to reach them and they look uninterested, but they may be just passive. And the direct approach that we used within the URB4DAN project was really helpful and revealed new facts. The other thing is to include organized interested stakeholders. We have some groups that are very willing to participate, and it's good to give them concrete tasks in the planning process. To define key tasks of the main institutions and create a working group to implement and monitor tasks from the strategy. And the other very important thing that we learned is the proactive approach. At the beginning of our project, we put a lot of thinking, what kind of plan this will be, will it have some legal basis, how will other institutions that have competences think about it, will it cause some disturbances, and then we said stop, let's stop thinking like this and let's just write a good plan and we will see what it will happen. And when we had a good plan, we started doing the other way around, finding possibilities to reach our decision makers. And we are really happy that our strategy was finally accepted by the city council and gained formal legal status on the city level. So it's a very good message that the other way around is also possible. And as I mentioned before, a direct personal approach with stakeholders is really important and can produce more benefits than waiting for some formal paths. And my colleague will tell you more about this in the next presentation. And finally, a lot of conversations within the members of URB4DAN, among partners and among institutions. Because of all these conversations, we are now sure that our strategy is already informally accepted also by other institutions, other decision makers, because we included them in the whole process and we kind of got their support. So this is just one picture from the beginning of this process of preparing the strategy, when we had no idea what if and what we will achieve with our document. And today we're really happy about its success. So thank you.
Thank you, Tina. Thank you, Tina, for your detailed presentation. I would kindly ask you to wait here. Actually, there are, as I can see, no questions in the checkbox, but there is applause and thumb up for you for your presentation. I see that Clive Davis has one question, and I think it would be best just to set it orally. Clive Davis, would you join us?
Yes, thank you, Tina. Really interesting presentation. It's partly a statement and partly a question. I'm also involved in various sort of projects and task forces at the moment, looking at governance models. And therefore I was really quite interested to hear what you have to say, and actually really quite impressed as well. I hope that we can use some of your findings in other projects, not only within the region, but across Europe. What the question is really would be to, there's been much discussion of late over this term co-governance, looking at how organizations can share power, if you like, and maybe power is a good word, with individual citizens in particular. And I noticed that in one of your diagrams, you had these sort of 4 circles. You had the Slovenian Forest Service, you had the forest owners, you had the city of Ljubljana, and I presume that is both political and technical people, and then you had the state, which perhaps is less relevant here. But what I would be interested to know is whether all of those stakeholders, perhaps with the exception of the forest owners, because many of them are, as you pointed out, quite small scale owners, but certainly with the Forest Service and the city of Ljubljana, to what extent they are using collaborative and participatory governance in terms of inputting to things like the forest plan, the new forest strategy, or was it more limited to representatives of those various sort of groups? So I'd like to probe you, Tina, on how deep you went with this co-governance concept.
The first thing is about the formal forest planning process and the preparation of the forest plans. So that was something I put about the Forest Service. We have the legal formal participation in the forest planning process, and the issue exposed here was that that participation is not enough in terms of urban forest areas. So the reason for this is also that the Forest Service has limited possibilities for this kind of intensive participation that we developed through the URBforDAN project. So this diagram here and what was our advice for the future is to make this participation more intensive, but here collaboration between Forest Service as the planning institution and the city of Ljubljana as more decision maker in these terms is urgent. So this was the idea. But I'm not really sure if I answered you.
No, you did answer it, Tina, and I'm, as I say, I want to stress that I think you have gone further than many.
We are. The thing is that we had a lot of conversations with the regional and local office in the Forest Service in order to be able in the future to integrate more of these kind of activities also in the Forest Service participation when the forest plans will be prepared. But the possibilities are also connected to the funds and maybe to some additional people working with skills for participation, because our group in the project was quite skilled in this aspect. Forest planners in the Forest Service may not have this much skills, so that's why collaboration between these institutions proved to be very good in this case.
Well, in policy terms, this is sometimes called nudge policy, where you're nudging people in a particular direction and you realize and recognize that you can't achieve it all. But one of the great changes that has taken place, I think probably now, maybe over the last 20 or 30 years, has been a recognition that the process of engagement is as often as important as the product of engagement. That the process of engagement builds trust between the community, the users, and the institutions that represent them. And that we shouldn't undervalue that, because institutions like forest services and municipal councils and local government are often treated with a degree of skepticism by local communities. And actually, I am of the opinion, at least, that the process of engagement sometimes brings benefits which you can't really put into a document.
Yes.
And that the actual strategy document itself is beneficial, but actually the role that people have performed has built relationships which might be of significance later that you could never write down in words. So
Yeah,
that's
agree.
the point that I'm trying to get at, Tina.
Yeah. It happened already in this short period of 2 years of our planning process. And that was exactly the case for the strategy, because we were not so much working with the users because it's a strategic document, but definitely the connection between the Forest Service and the local community has gained much stronger connection, I think. And it's a good basis for further management.
Thank you, Tina.
Thank you, Tina, and thank you, Mr. Clive Davis, for your question. We received also one general comment that how it is important what actually EFUF2021 is doing, how to include or how to find out that the urban forestry is also a part of a classical forestry, and how important it is actually in the fields of the cities. Tina, maybe there would be good if you roll back with your slideshow, and maybe you explain a bit more on the strategic priorities. What was the process or methodology, how you got to these priorities, and who was in charge for them?
Yes.
Just in short. Thank you.
Okay. We developed 7 strategic priorities. Okay, I will read them at first. These are the providing a healthy living environment, providing opportunities for sustainable recreation and leisure activities, and promoting sustainable tourism, providing opportunities for education and lifelong learning, nature and cultural heritage conservation, creating a conducive environment for forest owners, promoting a circular economy, and the development of comprehensive governance. These priorities are the core of the strategy, and they are important for all further guidelines and activities that will be implemented in the operational plans. How we defined them is important. We developed a group of experts that prepared the strategy and also these priorities, and the group was structured of experts from different fields, from the Slovenia Forest Service, from the city municipality of Ljubljana, and from the Zavita company. And then when we defined these priorities, we also send them to the regional office of the Slovenia Forest Service that checked them and checked also if they are in line with the existing forest plans. And then we also sent them in a revision to the Biotechnical Faculty, Department of Forestry, and also to the Forestry Institute. So this was just the revision process of the strategy. I must expose that these priorities are partially based on the existing forest plan for this area that defines forest functions for this area, but we also considered the current situation about the global climatic changes and situation in the urban areas, the current activities about recreation and other leisure activities, and and importance of education and lifelong learning was exposed because in the process of participation in our URBforDAN project, we had a lot of input from the kindergartens and schools, and they exposed the importance of this priority. So these priorities were also based on results of participation that Clement mentioned before. And these were kind of the main inputs to define them. Yeah, that would be my quick answer.
Thank you, Tina. Thank you again for your presentation and for your answers. I see no further question in our chat box. Also, there is no one asking another question. So now I would invite our next presenter, Mr. Yuri Kobe, to present his article, which is the Golovets approach, custom solutions for stakeholders involvement and management improvements. Yuri, the floor is yours. Please take your time with your presentation.
Thank you, Luca. Thank you for the word. Is everything working well? Do you see me on the camera? Do you hear me? Okay. So my colleagues already presented you some very important aspects of our work. Now I would like to focus a little bit more on Golovets Hill. It is actually our pilot area. We were preparing integrated multi-use management plan operational part for the Golovets Hill. So here I would just like to focus a little bit on the drivers, what actually happened in the last decade of our life and what was actually stimulus for our work. It is important also, I had the opportunity on this EFUF 2016 to present another presentation which was dealing with disaster management. So this disaster management was of course focused on these events, Sleet 2014, Bark Beetle attacks 2015-16. And now, of course, all this work then continued, and from our really deep frustration, because we were just not able to respond properly in that moment, was actually this project. We started to think about it and to create it quite fast after this event in 2016. So I wrote here suitable mature conditions for first steps in cooperation with forest owners. We succeeded really to do some large projects in that period. Now, in the continuation, we of course had quite a lot of problems with this epidemiological issue. Now, in this last phase of our work. But still, let's focus step by step. At the beginning, we are now focusing on actually stimulating environment for forest owners. This is actually priority number 5, which was mentioned before during Tina's presentation. It is extremely important on Golovets because, as you saw before, private owners represent 82.5% of ownership on Golovec, so actually nothing can be done properly without their consent, without their collaboration. That's why we are, of course, working on this Forest Owners Association, which is a must for any kind of effective forest management. And City of Ljubljana already succeeded to accomplish an element which was described in our application forum, and that is that we are going to prepare this population of owners to adopt a statute of the association. And now we are also quite optimistic that we might even upgrade this till the end of our project, that we might form an association and Ljubljana would just participate as an equal partner within this association. Besides that, Ljubljana, of course, is trying to become more and more active partner as a local community and as a forest owner. Ljubljana is actually the second largest owner of forest on the Golovec Hill, with around 7.5%. We are now in the last 2 years trying to accelerate buying out inactive owners. We succeeded to buy approximately 10 hectares last year, and this year we are going to do it again. Of course, this can be achieved with a stimulative price. We are offering actually double or more than double market price, which means €1 per square meter. The situation on the market of forest land in Slovenia is mostly prices are around 30-40 cents per square meter. Besides that, we are also setting the standards of forest management and these implementation measures. We are actually dealing with our contractor. Of course, this is a process, and we are mostly deciding in every single situation what are the best measures to be done, how to achieve the required aesthetic standards. We actually have an article which requires higher forest order, and this is also a reason why we started to think about the compensation system. Ljubljana, I mean, the city of Ljubljana is legally bind or has to somehow finance these financial substitutions. I mean, we are talking about, let's say, really small amount of money on yearly basis, but still it is important because, as we wrote before, small actions matter for our citizens or our owners. I also described or tried to present in my presentation a little bit the lessons we learned in the earlier stages of our projects. So, for example, in this part, you can see some lessons learned, like citizens want to participate and can contribute if we let them. And I'm just trying to give you some good answers or responses to these lessons. Because, for example, in our application forum, it was our goal to connect at least 10% of owners or ownership. And finally, it turned out at the end of last year that we received more than 100 responses on our second second survey, which was not online. It was this was material sent by post to the owners, which represented them as responsible and active enough in the earlier stages of the project. And finally, of course, it turned out that we activated almost 20% of the owners and far higher level of entire forest ownership due to predominant activity among larger owners. This is an important characteristic of our owners, that of course those who possess, let's say, 5 hectares or more, which is still in European context, these are micro owners, but for Ljubljana situation, these are already relatively large owners. So yeah, we were discussing about this lesson learned in the earlier stages of our project, which I used to give some good responses that that turned out to be really important as additional knowledge we learned during the project. So I mentioned that we have difficulties with our owners, with those owners, with the active part of our owners, because they still perceive the local community and the state as a bully, a kind of bully, because they were trying to impose some kind of measures that they have to comply with, but they want to oppose mostly just because they want to oppose, because we have really, really important and very positive ideas about urban forest development, and we are just actually trying to assist and to work collaboratively with them. As Mr. Clive Davis mentioned before, we are trying to introduce a cooperative approach or co-governance with the owners. This is our major goal. But still, at the beginning, when we were asking these larger owners if they are ready or if they would let us to install equipment on the edges of their forest plots, or they were opposing that. But finally, I must say that I met with every single owner in person on site, and that turned out also very, very productive, because they, at the end, practically all of them accepted that it was really small concession from their part. But still, what I would like to stress is that they are becoming more and more open for collaboration with us in the future. So here is just a slide which is focusing on our stakeholders. We are going to skip this slide. This one is really important. UPF management initiative potential. We are now focusing here on our map on the most exposed urban forests in Ljubljana, which are actually inside the highway ring. We are dealing with the right part, with this larger one. This is the Golovec Hill. It represents 650 hectares. That is almost 1/3 of the strategic area, which was presented before by colleague Tina. As you can see, we have here different colors of these plots. City of Ljubljana, the orange one, we are now really working well on this buying off. So I hope that we will reach about 15% in the next decade. I mean, that's a realistic expectation. Then I have here a very interesting map from our operational plan, which represents our pilot area. We actually installed or equipped 8 major entrance points, which are all public entrances to urban forest Golovec Hill, and they're interconnected with additional 30 signposts for directing visitors. So although this is a relatively huge area of 650 hectares, people are now much more capable for navigating in between these entrance points. You can also see on the right side 2 important forest learning points. One is dedicated to autochthon tree species on Golovec. This one here on the right, and this is the picture on the bottom represents a forest learning point totem with some information. Then we have, this is also a very important result of our project. This is actually information map that is installed on every entrance point. We also installed 2 additional on the Golovec Ridge for the visitors to be able to orientate themselves better in the forest. Here in the lower left corner, you have again the strategic area of urban forests, and we also have here some QR codes which are connecting our visitors with public buses, with additional tourist content, etc. Well, this is also a very, very important map from our operational plan. The zonation, we actually decided to, because of the huge density of visitors on the western side of Golovec, we decided that this is the core recreational area and that the southeastern part is more peripheral, has more peripheral character. That's why we are supporting a lot the downhill polygon in this area. We would like, of course, to avoid any kind of clashes and problems in between different stakeholder groups in the future. So we are trying to develop these harder kinds of recreation in the southeastern part. Well, additionally, I would also like to give you the idea of our most complex forest learning part. It is actually Forest Planetarium. You can see these 2 pictures on the right side of the slide. This is actually one of the hilltops where we are presenting 8 planets from our solar system, and this armillary sphere, this red one, for the interpretation of movements in the cosmos. So this is our last slide. This is how it looks like one information board on the entrance. We also introduced 2 ramps because we would like to limit a little bit motorized mobility. So this is on the southern slopes, under southern slopes of Golovec Hill. And on the left side is also the largest water pond in the near vicinity. This water pond is already decided upon to become our follow-up project, which is going to start probably in the August, September this year, because this is now important, firstly, to clean it in terms of forest infrastructure. This is actually stormwater protection pond, and later on we are going to take care of the biodiversity issue in this area. So more than enough work to do for the future. We're really looking forward to any new partners, and we'll be glad to give you any kind of knowledge you would like to get. Thank you for your attention. I'm also ready for a Q&A session.
Thank you, Yuri, for your presentation. I would kindly ask you to stay with us for another 5 to 10 minutes. We have two questions, both coming from client Davis. So the first one is regarding the equipment. If equipment is positioned on a private owner's land, do they become responsible for injuries, safety to citizens that use them?
Thank you for the question. Actually, equipment is not set on private land. The majority is set on the land in a property of local community, but some of it is also set in the areas which are, let's say, borders of two different forest plots. So in these cases, I invited every single owner to see the location on site and to include them in this process of installation to get their opinion about the micro location where they would like it to be installed, so that it won't bother in any way their interest. That was actually the idea. And I must say that 95% of them were really okay. We agreed upon everything.
Okay, thank you, Yuri. There is another question regarding the urban equipment and actually about the materials. So the information boards, are you working towards removing plastic and changing them for more natural materials?
Actually, we are not using any kind of plastic, maybe just I mean, it is some concrete underground, some metal, and mostly it is wood. The artificial materials are just used as a sticker, as this huge sticker, because on our signposts and information boards, these are actually smaller or larger stickers, which are set on some kind of wooden plate, something like that. Yes. So we are actually not using plastics at all. It is all about natural materials. It is just concrete and steel in terms of fixing it to the ground and to get required reliability and durability. Because for us, it is important that, for example, these wooden parts are going to last for about at least 10, but more likely 15 years. And then when they will be, when needed, they will simply be replaced with similar wooden. We actually created now in this process the entire comprehensive graphic design for Ljubljana urban forests. So we are now also empowering the image of urban forests in general, because before this simply didn't exist.
Okay, thank you, Yuri. Maybe you can give us a word or two also on the how the material was chosen for this boards and how it was integrated, actually put into Komora for integration. Maybe that would be interested for our participants. but as I said, in 2 seconds, in 2 sentences, 3 sentences.
Well, we decided because, I mean, such a project covers so many different aspects, and because we are not professionals for, let's say, wood quality and materials in particular, we are also using a company called Bureau Veritas. It is an international company for verifying the quality of any kind of works executed. So actually they introduced us into some deeper knowledge about that, and we of course decided under their guidance for let's say deep compression of these wooden parts in a certain plant here in the nearby vicinity of Ljubljana, where they are dealing with wood protection. For example, this was really important. And they were also checking same about steel protection with zinc, and I think also about stickers, but this company which delivered stickers was also a very professional one, and is in use also for the other different things in our city.
Okay, thank you, Yuri. There was actually a question about the name of the company, and it was already put in the chat that it is the Bureau Veritas.
Yeah.
That it was for qualification. And there is Andrei Buncina, so willing to put a question. Andrei?
Okay. Yeah, hello to everybody. Can you hear me?
Yes,
yes, we hear you.
Yeah, okay. First, I would like to congratulate the whole team for excellent meeting. And yeah, I was partly involved in this, in the project, especially to this part related to this operational plan and template. And I have a question for you, Yuri. So what's your opinion? What's the importance of operational plan for successful management in the Golovec area? Not only for in this year, but also for in the next future, let's say. And maybe the second question, we are now somehow like generals after the battle, and so what would you change in the planning procedure if we start with this, let's say, action again? Thank you.
Thank you, Andrei, for questions. For the first one about the operational plan, I'm really glad about this plan because it is the first document which actually represents a kind of synthesis in between City of Ljubljana and Slovenia Forest Service, because the very idea of our project is that we are not dividing our work to, I don't know, forest management as a core business of Slovenia Forest Service, and I don't know, social functions and some other stuff on the side of Ljubljana. The most important thing that we learned through this project is that together, Slovenia Forest Service and City of Ljubljana, we can really move things forward. We can really develop our urban forests, and that is what we all feel and see now with the results achieved.
Mm-hmm.
And this is, of course, going to continue. We are actually at the beginning of this process. So I'm really glad about this. About second question, if I would have changed anything in case of another, in case of this opportunity, in this moment, I actually don't have this idea. I must say that I'm really very proud on all my colleagues because we really did the major work. And I actually don't think that I would change anything. Now I'm just glad that we are approaching this end of the project and that we are thinking about further steps. And again, I must confess, I'm really extremely proud about every single colleague involved in our project.
Maybe Yuri, I can add here something. Of course, we didn't share with you the information that actually the URBforDAN project was recognized as a good best practice of the Danube program, and then therefore we also got an opportunity to extension of our project. And actually, we got extra funds from that program for additional activities. And one of these activities also the operational part for Šmarna Gora, which is the second focus area now in Ljubljana. So, of course, we prepared the operational plan for Golovec, and now we will prepare the operational plan for Šmarna Gora. And then at the end, in September or maybe October, we can then see what are the changes in the approach, in the methodology, and others changes between the preparation of those two operational plans. Are there any other questions for Yuri, or maybe Klemen is also still here with us and Tina is also here? If there are not, then I would, as I already started with our further plans, I would also like to conclude what are actually our next steps within the URBforDAN projects. So one is already explained, the extension of our project, which is not only happening here in Ljubljana, but as well in city of Zagreb, in city of Cluj-Napoca, and in city of Ivano-Frankivsk. Also, those cities have second focus area, and they will prepare operational plan for those areas. Actually, in the Cluj-Napoca, also another strategic part for another area, and of course, all those new focus areas will be equipped with additional urban equipment. Yeah, and we would of course like to submit application also for URBACT good practice, because we think that our experience should be transferred and shared also to others European cities, so that they can have a use on that. Within our strategy for capitalization, we are also already making the transformation on our good practice on national level. So then that means in each participating countries, in Austria, in Hungary, in Croatia, in Serbia, in Romania, and of course in Ukraine, and as well in associated partners. In Bosnia, in Czech Republic, and others. And of course, as you heard today, there are also some other problems that needs to be solved, as already Tina presented, and then also Yuri. And there is a lot of space for upscaling and for improvements of our projects. So these are actually our future plans that we would like to achieve in the next 5-10 years. At the end, I would like to share with you our URBforDAN library, our URBforDAN web page, where you can find all the information about our project, information about our results. Those pages are updating every week, so there is new stuff on it, and we will be glad if you will follow us. And of course, if there are any additional questions for you, if there are any additional questions that you have for us, we will be more than glad to answer you. I think that here in the chat box it says that there is additional question. Oh, I see that Dragan is there, that he has another question for us. Yes, Dragan, please.
Hello. Actually, it's not a question. I will just first greetings to all of you, especially to all the colleagues, because we worked together 1 year. After that, I left, and I'm now working in Georgia. As you mentioned before, this transfer of all what have you done in the last 3 years would be also very important for Georgia. Because, for example, the capital of Georgia, Tbilisi, is owner of about 11,000 hectares of forests. They manage also as an urban forest, but not enough. So they would need, they absolutely need help in this regard. I already showed them all the results, the partial results of URBforDAN, and they are very interested. So if there will be any possibility in the future also to connect the colleagues from Georgia in such projects, it will be a big help for this country. This was just my small suggestion for the end. And yes, absolutely congratulations for everything you did. I am happy that I was with you the first year, and I'm sad that I was not with you until the end. But in any case, I think that you did a very, very good job. Greetings from Georgia. Bye-bye.
Thank you, Dragan. Thank you, Dragan. Thank you for all your words. Of course, we already talked about Tbilisi and the opportunities and the possible solutions, and I'm sure that there will be opportunities for that. Yeah, I see no. Are there any other question? Any other remarks? If not, as already said, here are our web page and the link to our URBforDAN Danube network. Please join us, follow us, and if you have any questions, we will be more than glad to answer on your question. And for today, we would like to thank you, all the participants of this event. Thank you for participating. We would like to thank the EFUF team for letting us do our presentation within their forum. And of course, I hope that you learned something today, that you gained information that will be useful for you and for your city and for your urban and peri-urban forests. Thank you and goodbye.